November 30th, 1944. Somewhere south of Java, the submarine U-196 breaks radio silence for the last time. The transmission is routine. Position, weather, all systems normal. Then, nothing. No distress call, no flares, no debris. In the logbooks of the German Navy, one simple entry would mark the end. U-196, last contact received, presumed lost. The Indian Ocean, vast and endless, swallows its secrets without a ripple. And among those secrets lies the fate of 65 men who vanished into its depths. In 1943, as Germany's war turned grim, the Kriegsmarine built a class of submarines that defied the limits of distance and endurance. The Type IXD2, a steel leviathan, 87 meters long, with a range that could stretch from Kiel to Australia and back. They called it a long-range commerce raider, a submarine designed not for the Atlantic, but for the far reaches of the Indian Ocean, where Allied patrols were scarce and shipping lanes rich. U-196 launched from Kiel in late 1942 under the command of Korvettenkapitän Eitel Friedrich Kentrat, a veteran of the Atlantic campaign. He'd survived depth charges and destroyers, but now his orders took him farther than any German commander had gone, into waters where the nearest friendly port was 10,000 miles away. While Europe burned, a quieter, crueler war unfolded far to the south. German U-boats operated from secret bases at Penang, Jakarta, and Batavia, supplied by Japanese forces under the Uneasy Pact between Berlin and Tokyo. The Indian Ocean became the last refuge for the U-boat fleet, far from Allied hunter-killers that now ruled the Atlantic skies. But distance did not mean safety. These were patrols measured not in weeks, but in months, in hunger, heat, and isolation. The men of U-196 lived in a steel tube barely 4 meters wide. The air was thick with diesel fumes and sweat. Fresh water was rationed, bread molded within days. They slept next to torpedoes, their dreams vibrating with the pulse of the engines. In that claustrophobic darkness, laughter came rarely. A crude joke, a letter from home, a song hummed beneath the rumble of the sea. When U-196 departed for what would be her final patrol, most of her crew were barely 20 years old. They believed, as all submariners did, that skill and luck were the same thing. In late 1944, Kentrat received new orders: patrol the waters southwest of Java, report on Allied convoys, and if possible, attack shipping off Australia. It was a doomed mission before it began. By now, the Allied navies had radar, aircraft, and sonar that could track a periscope wake from miles away. The silent service was no longer silent. It was hunted. Still, U-196 slipped beneath the waves one final time. Her engines faded into the deep, a heartbeat vanishing into the endless blue. On November 30th, 1944, U-196 sent her last routine message. Coordinates placed her roughly 600 kilometers southwest of Java. After that, the radio fell silent. Days turned to weeks. No contact, no survivors, no wreck. By January, Admiral Karl Dönitz, commander of the U-boat fleet, declared U-196 missing in action. It was one of dozens that simply vanished. Theories from the deep. For decades, the ocean has kept her silence, but historians, divers, and engineers haven't. 3 main theories attempt to explain what happened to U-196. Theory 1. The mechanical catastrophe. The Type IXD2 was powerful but temperamental. Its massive diesel engines overheated easily in tropical waters, and its batteries, enormous lead-acid cells beneath the deck, could ignite without warning. A single spark could trigger a hydrogen explosion, turning the submarine into a pressure cooker of flame and gas. If that happened underwater, there would be no survivors. No time even for a mayday. Just twisted steel, settling slowly on the seabed. Theory 2. The hidden enemy. Allied air patrols were expanding fast across the Indian Ocean by late 1944. British and Australian bombers, equipped with the ASV Mark III radar, could spot a conning tower from 20 miles away, even through darkness or cloud. Some naval archives mention unconfirmed depth charge attacks in early December near Java. It's possible that one of those explosions marked the end of U-196, unrecorded, unrecognized, forgotten by both sides. Theory 3. The post-war legend. And then there's the story the locals tell. In remote villages along the coast of West Java, old fishermen whisper of German men who appeared after the war. Pale, quiet, speaking a strange language. They built houses, married, and lived among them for years. Could they have been survivors of U-196? It's unlikely. But it's a legend that refuses to die. The idea that a handful of men walked out of the ocean and into obscurity, leaving their war behind. In the early 2000s, an Indonesian dive team claimed to have found a wreck near Bandung that matched the dimensions of U-196, an 87-meter steel hull resting upright on the seabed. Photographs showed rusted railings, torpedo tubes, and a shattered conning tower. But the ocean is full of ghosts. Without an identification plate or artifacts, the discovery remains unverified. No official expedition has ever confirmed the site. To this day, no trace of U-196 has been formally identified. Numbers and theories can never capture what it felt like to serve aboard a submarine. The claustrophobia, the constant fear of sound, of every creak, meaning death. Life aboard U-196 was a rhythm of tension and exhaustion. 4 hours on watch, 4 hours off, always half asleep, always ready to dive. A single mistake could mean death, a dropped wrench, a leak, a wrong depth setting. In their diaries, U-boat men often wrote not about glory, but about silence, the sound of the ocean pressing against the hull, the eerie peace before an attack. U-196 was one of hundreds of these iron coffins, as German sailors bitterly called them. Back in Europe, Admiral Karl Dönitz watched his fleet disappear, boat by boat. By 1944, 3 out of every 4 U-boat sailors were dead. The Atlantic had become a graveyard of steel. Dönitz understood better than anyone that courage was no longer enough. Allied radar, sonar, and air power had rendered the U-boat campaign obsolete. And yet, the orders kept coming. The missions continued. Each lost submarine meant 50, 60, 70 more names to add to the list. Among them, U-196. Somewhere on the seabed south of Java, 3,000 meters below the surface, lies the twisted skeleton of U-196. The Indian Ocean is not kind to memory. Salt and time erase everything. Names, stories, even steel. But for those who study the war beneath the waves, the mystery of U-196 remains one of its final unsolved chapters. It is a story without closure, a reminder that even in an age of science and satellites, the sea still keeps its secrets. More than 30,000 German submariners died during World War II, a casualty rate of 75%, the highest of any military branch in history. They drowned in darkness, burned in explosions, or suffocated in silence. They fought not only against their enemies, but against the ocean itself. To this day, their graves lie unmarked, scattered across the seafloor, from the cold Atlantic to the warm waters off Indonesia. In 2017, the German Navy placed a memorial in Leboeuf, near Kiel, the home port of U-196. It reads, "To the men who went to sea and did not return." No words of victory, no politics, only remembrance. The story of U-196 is not one of battles or triumphs. It is a story of disappearance, of how a machine built for war could simply stop existing. It is also the story of human endurance, of young men who faced the impossible, far from home, believing they might change the outcome of a war already lost. The ocean remembers them, in silence, in rust, and in legend. In the end, the fate of U-196 may never be known. Perhaps she lies in deep water, beyond the reach of divers. Perhaps she exploded silently, her crew never knowing what happened. Or perhaps, just perhaps, a few men made it ashore, carrying their story with them into the jungles of Java, where it was lost to time. Whatever the truth, their disappearance reminds us that history is not only about what we can prove, but about what we still feel when we look out across the sea and wonder,